This is the Allegiance One Strike in 45 ACP. Going to go through our sheetrock test.
I saw some stuff blow off the back.
Clear. Here's that 45 ACP Allegiance One Strike bullet recovered. It did not become frangible at all. Traveled through 11 sheets of sheetrock in one piece, went through the backstop, which is just cardboard, and was found on the ground just behind the cardboard. So it had lost its energy, but did not become frangible at all. Now we're going to fire a 45 ACP Allegiance One Strike at this cinder block. We already have a hole from a previous test. We're going to go in the other half of the cinder block over here. Then we're going to glance one off of this cinder block and see what kind of pattern we get on the backstop. So here's the result of our Allegiance One Strike 45 ACP. We have a good entrance into this cinder block. No exit back here. It's hard to tell. This hole down here that you're seeing is from a previous test. That was an entrance from a different test. This one that we just fired would have impacted right in here, and there's no sign of impact there. Plus we found the full slug inside the brick. When it broke, the brick went this way and the slug was laying just like that. The slug retained over half of its weight here. You can see the frangible material inside. The orange tip is still there to some degree, but did not exit the brick. Off the glancing shot on this other cinder block, you can see where it impacted right there, and then it blew back behind. This one's interesting. It blew a large hole in the paper and the cardboard backing, but that doesn't appear to really have any penetration going through the paper. If we line all that paper back up, it just split the paper, kind of powder, vertical powder impact from the frangiating bullet. We do have two penetrations right here that penetrated all the way through our cardboard, and we can't find the slug in the backstop, anything like that. It's hard to find at these angles, but some fairly large pieces there. What we did recover from that was simply this orange piece of the cavity of the bullet, the nose plug on the bullet. That's what we found from that. So pretty good for the One Strike, not penetrating the cinder block all the way. The glancing one sure did leave a devastating opening here and a couple of penetrations. Well, hello. Today we're doing some ammunition tests. We're going to run this through a sheetrock test. We have the Allegiance ammunition 40 caliber Power Strike. It's a 100 grain frangible bullet, and we're going to run it through some sheetrock. Looks like that right there. So we'll see how she does on the sheetrock.
That's not good.
So we just fired the Allegiance Power Strike 40 caliber into the sheetrock, and as you can see, it went through all of our layers of sheetrock. We have 11 layers of sheetrock, which simulates 5.5 drywalls, and it went on through into the cardboard that was behind the target. So that would have gone through approximately 6 walls in a house and kept going. There was no frangible action going on. Just penetrated like a regular slug all the way through all of that sheetrock.
We gotta make our own words for this.
Well, we've recovered the slug from that Power Strike by Allegiance after going through 11 sheets of sheetrock and a piece of cardboard, and it did not begin to break apart at all. Still one complete bullet all the way. Okay, we're going to do our cinder block test using the Allegiance ammunition. This is their, where is it? 40 caliber, 40 S&W Power Strike 100 grain bullet. Looks like this. And we're going to shoot straight onto this cinder block over on the right hand side, and then we're going to shoot a glancing shot off of this cinder block, see what we get.
Oh, that bounced way back.
Clear. Okay, so the Allegiance Power Strike did not penetrate the first layer of the cinder block. It did leave a pretty good sized divot, but it did completely fragment apparently. There's no sign of bullet jacket or pieces of it laying on the table anywhere. So that was a good frangible bullet on that test. Here's where it glanced off this cinder block, and you can see the wind's getting to us today. Put up a clean sheet of paper, and you see quite a bit of splatter on that paper. A couple of large size holes, and we're unable to find those in the back side and the backstop. Unclear if that's cinder block, although there wasn't much that chipped off, so that's probably bullet fragments or the core or the tip of the bullet still going there, but quite a bit of splatter just from the cinder material. So pretty good test. Again, the best part here is that did not penetrate through that cinder block at all right there. And that one glanced off pretty good. Okay, for our next test, we are shooting the Allegiance ammunition, the 40 S&W 100 grain Power Strike frangible. Looks like this. And we're going to shoot into, we have beef ribs up against a cantaloupe, duct taped to a cantaloupe, and then we have a pork roast in the middle, a shoulder roast, and then we have 2 liters of water on the far side. So we'll get busy. Okay, so that was the 40 caliber Allegiance Power Strike, and on our first shot we went right in through that beef rib into the cantaloupe. You can see we did quite a number the back side of the cantaloupe for sure, and we got some pass-throughs. I think that piece and that piece went clean through the paper after the beef ribs and the cantaloupe. The next shot we hit the pork roast. The pork roast was standing this way, and our entrance is right there. Hole in the paper and hole in the pork roast. We got a little piece of the green tip of the bullet right there. Then we did become frangible and exit out the back. A good little wound cavity down inside there. I don't see any pieces of bullet in that wound cavity. But it did also exit the back apparently. We move over to our water bottles. Oh, and we have penetration back there on the backstop as well after going through the pork shoulder. Come over to the water bottles. We did enter and exit 2 liters. Blew right through that one into the second one, and an exit as well. Although I don't see a bullet exit necessarily as much as a split. Could have just been from the pressure. Hard to say if a piece of the bullet left. But we do have a hole in the backstop right behind the water bottles. That hole right there was directly behind the water bottles. So it looks like we do have a slug that went through the backstop. Okay, we're going to be shooting some EBR 9mm NATO 90 grain frangible tactical ammunition through some sheetrock. I have 11 layers of sheetrock there, which represents 5.5 walls, and we'll see what happens. Here's what the bullet looks like. Again, that's the EBR 90 grain 9mm frangible ammunition tactical. Yes, sir. Well, here is that 90 grain 9mm EBR tactical load. This is the bullet that was fired. Went through all 11 sheets of drywall and the cardboard backer and was found on the ground directly behind the cardboard backing. Did not go into the berm, was just found loose on the ground. Did not really become frangible either, except that the back end of the bullet shaved off and made another perforation through about 6 layers of sheetrock and the cardboard. Okay, doing our cinder block test with the EBR 9mm NATO plus P 90 grain frangible tactical ammunition. Looks like this. Not really a hollow point, just a flat nose bullet. We're going to shoot at this cinder block on a straight on shot, and then this other one we're going to shoot a glancing shot and see what kind of fragmentation we get.
Looked good on the glancing, no major, but it punched. Okay, thing is,
Is it in and out?
I don't think it made it all the way through.
Okay, so from that EBR 9mm tactical, we have an entrance into the cinder block there. It did crack the cinder block completely in half. Did not seem to leave an exit hole. There's a hole down there, but and it's hard to tell. But it cracked the brick in half, obviously. Left some brick powder in the middle, of course. Doesn't really look like a big exit hole because this is all we have behind it. And this is mostly from our glancing shot. We don't have a caliber size hole behind the cinder block anywhere. So I think we did pretty good on that. Here is the glancing shot on this other cinder block right there, and glanced back this way, and you can see the splatter from it. No large caliber holes at all. In fact, that's just marking on the paper. The only one of these we can find that goes through the paper is this one right here, and it does go through at a slight angle. That would have been a somewhat large piece, not full caliber size. What we recovered after these shots was this pile of debris. We think is bullet fragments from the big cinder block shot, and then this large piece of slug right here. This is part of that frangible slug that was recovered, we believe, from the glancing shot of this other cinder block that left all the splatter. But there's no hole this large on the paper, so this must have just landed on the ground, kind of rolled up behind our target stands. So there you go, pretty frangible on the EBR. Okay, now we're going to do some tests with this EBR 9mm NATO plus P 90 grain frangible tactical ammunition. Looks like this. And we are going to shoot, we have some ribs duct taped to a cantaloupe first, and then we have a pork shoulder, and then we have 2 liters of water stacked up, one in front of the other. It's already going.
Straight through. Straight through.
And here's how that test with the EBR came out. We hit the ribs rather. Right there's the entrance. into the cantaloupe. I'll turn this around so you can see. Somewhat frangible, but not really. And that one exited into the backstop right there. You see the hole in the backstop right there. Full caliber size hole back there. Then we have the pork roast. We entered the pork roast right there. There's a hole under there somewhere. Anyway, full caliber entrance right there. And on the exit, a full caliber hole exit as well. Right there. Doesn't look like it really became frangible at all. And it also penetrated in the backstop right there. Full caliber penetration in the backstop. Then we hit our 2 water bottles, both destroyed. Entrance, exit, entrance, exit, and also penetrated all the way through and went through the backstop. Looks like it may have been keyholing at that point, just a little bit. But all 3 of the EBR Tactical over penetrated those targets. Did recover 1 of the slugs. It's hard to know which one that is. It's about half of the slug, maybe a little more than half, from that testing.
Here,
and here are the other 2, fully intact after going through those meat and water tests. I guess if I were guessing, I'd say that's the one that went through the water.
Yes, sir.
And then these 2 went through the meat products, the cantaloupe and the meat, the ribs, and the pork roast. So not so tactical today, EBR. We're going to test this RWS Copper Matrix NTF totally lead-free, non-toxic frangible ammunition through sheetrock. This is the 40 S&W 115 grain load. It looks just like that, and we're going to fire it into our sheetrock box. Well, the RWS went completely through our sheetrock box, through 11 sheets of sheetrocks, through the cardboard, and into the berm, and we have been unable to recover it out of the berm. We found the channel, but it dug a pretty deep hole into the berm, so it did not become frangible at all. Here's the Extreme Shock 45 ACP load.
Keep loaded at the house. Nothing went out the back.
So we fired the 45 ACP Extreme Shock. Just made a regular bullet hole in the front piece of sheetrock. Passed through. And it went through a total of 10 pieces of sheetrock. I'm going to show you those holes from the fronts of them. If you can see in there, the hole begins to get wider as we progress through the first several. Then it goes back to a smaller size, just caliber size hole. But if you look at the back, you know, the exit, some interesting ballistics happening here on about sheet number 4. Really large exit hole. So that bullet became frangible on the 2nd or 3rd sheet of sheetrock and really hit its frangible max on sheet 4 and then began to shrink down to just the jacket and the core. Here's what we recovered. Most of the jacket still intact, and then several pieces of the nose. The jacket still has some of the frangible powder inside, but that one stopped after, did penetrate 10 sheets of sheetrock, just made a dent in number 11. Okay, we're testing this RBCD Platinum Plus ammunition. It's frangible. It's their Platinum 40 caliber S&W 77 grain total fragmenting soft point. It looks like this, and we're going to test that through sheetrock.
I don't know what it did. Right here. Safe?
Yes, sir. So just fired the RBCD 40 caliber frangible total fragmenting soft point round through the sheetrock box. You can see the entrance hole here, and then if you look through the side, you can begin to see that entrance hole gets bigger each sheet of sheetrock for a ways until we get to that one. It just dented the sheetrock. It did not penetrate. There's no penetration on our last sheetrock and no penetration from that shot on our backstop. We have some other shots back there. But this RBCD penetrated what would be 4.5 walls. Went through 9 sheets of sheetrock and dented the 10th one. So it would have penetrated through 4.5 walls, but we find no shred of that bullet left down in here. No powder, nothing. It's just completely gone. We did have one failure to fire. You can see on this cartridge, pretty good firing pin hit. We're shooting this out of a car CW40, and that one failed to ignite. So some kind of issue going on with the primer there, and that's of concern. But the performance, at least we're getting something frangible out of the performance.
6 feet or so, 8 feet.
We just recovered the jacket from that shot that went through 4.5 layers of drywall, went through 9 sheets. On the 10th sheet, the core must have been gone, the powdered core, and the jacket seems to have struck the sheetrock and bounced back toward the firing line about 8 feet or so. So there's the jacket. We fired a second shot of that RBCD ammunition. And this time we recovered a jacket that was laying beside our sheetrock box, and we recovered a piece of a slug still intact, if you can see that. And that went through 10 sheets of sheetrock and landed inside the last box, did not penetrate sheet number 11. So that'd be the equivalent of going through 5 walls. It reduced mass by that point. It was frangible to some degree, but this much was still a slug through that 10th sheet of sheetrock.
All of that.
Okay, so here are the results of our cinder block test for the RBCD 40 caliber ammo. There's the entrance, and this did not penetrate the second wall of the cinder block. So it penetrated the first wall and stopped inside. Here's the pile of rubble. We see no bullet fragments, no complete slug, no jacket, no remnants of any ammunition being fired at all. So that was good. It went through the one wall, but not through the second. Then we fired a glancing shot at about this angle off of this cinder block, and you can see that mark there. That's where the bullet struck, and the bullet then left a powder streak on the table and tore the carpet that's on our table here. But there's no bullet fragments down in there. On the backstop, that round, after ricocheting off the brick, broke up and made all of those little entrance wounds. Entrances through the cardboard, and we have 3 big ones. This one, this one, this one, and really kind of this one too. I guess we have 4 fairly large holes, and then lots of little splatter. Unclear if that's fragments of the bullet or fragments of the cinder block, but that's what glanced off after striking this cinder block at about this angle, and it impacted over there. We can't find the slug in the backstop, so I assume fragmentation, and that's mostly cinder block splatter back there, but it's hard to tell.
Let's go through the meat of the kennel.
This test is the RBCD Platinum Plus ammunition in 40 S&W, 77 grain total fragmenting soft point. Looks like this. And we're going to be shooting, these are pork ribs attached to a cantaloupe, and then a pork roast, a shoulder roast, and then 2 liters of water.
Okay, hang on a second.
Here's the result of the testing with that RBCD on the different media here. We had the ribs. You see the entrance wound into the ribs. Oops. And the exit. And then you see the cantaloupe blown clean in half. Most of the internals removed. Not a huge wound channel by definition, and it sure didn't obliterate that. And we do have a hole in the backstop. Really 2 holes that were located directly behind that cantaloupe. So something continued through. This one goes right up against the wood backstop, and I'll show you a piece of debris that we think might be that. It did not penetrate the wood as a 2x2 behind this cardboard. Did not penetrate the 2x2, but penetrated the cardboard. This one down here, fairly large hole as well. Now to the pork roast, which was the middle shot, and there we have pretty good expansion, something going on in there, through and through. But on the backstop behind the pork roast, we do not have a solid hole anywhere. We have a little bit of stuff, and I'll show you that. Back here we have a piece of jacket. Most of the jacket there stuck in the backstop, and another piece of jacket right in there. So those 2 pieces of jacket behind the pork roast, but no full caliber penetration anywhere. That does not appear to go through the cardboard. None of those appear to go all the way through the cardboard after going through the pork roast. Maybe another little one over here. It's just a little small hole, also does not go all the way through the cardboard. Then we hit the water bottles, and you can see entrance and split on exiting. Went through the 2 water bottles again. Pretty violent disruption when we hit the water bottles and the pork roast. If you saw that, all of these items went flying off the table during that test. Here is the center ball that we found up underneath the targets. We think that this is what may have hit the gone through after the ribs and cantaloupe and hit the 2x2 and then kind of bounced to the floor, bounced down to the ground somewhere. So that would have lost energy pretty quickly, I'm sure. And then these 2 pieces are the ones that were stuck in the backstop. We're gonna test fire some Hornady tap. This is the 40 S&W 155 grain Hornady tap defensive hollow point. This is the older version that had the black finish on it. The newer ones just have a nickel. But we're gonna fire some of this through our sheetrock box, see how it does.
They went all the way through. Yep, I got spotted.
Safe.
We're good.
This is the Hornady tap hollow point, jacket of hollow point with the cinder block test. We're going to shoot at this cinder block first, a straight on shot, and then this cinder block here, a glancing shot. Okay, so we just fired the 40 caliber Hornady tap at the cinder block. Hit a little toward the center support, but it was a good enough hit that it should have gone through. It did not penetrate the block. In fact, it ricocheted back. We recovered the jacket and the lead as they separated back here. Most definitely there's another piece of lead back there because the shooter was struck in the face slightly with some debris from this, possibly from the cinder block, but most likely from the bullet itself, as this was found about 10 feet past the shooter. Shooter was only about 10 feet back from the brick, so kind of a note to self there. That's why we have frangible now. But anyway, that's what it did to the cinder block, no penetration. Then we had the glancing shot, which landed down here at the bottom of, actually that's not the right one, up here on the cinder block, right there. That's where the hollow point struck, again Hornady tap, and then ricocheted over there, and you can see the pattern that it made in the paper. Very clearly, pieces of the slug did go through here. We have two holes, pretty good holes in the paper. The cardboard tells a slightly different story, that it's a little bit smaller hole in the cardboard. But we do have penetration of the slug and jacket coming through there. We can't find them in the backstop either. We did have holes in some other material on the backstop, but we're unable to recover those pieces at this time. But that's what we expected from a hollow point, as opposed to frangible ammunition. Okay, we are going to test the Hornady tap ammunition, 40 S&W, 155 grain. And we are shooting, well, if you want to see it, looks like that right there. This is the older tap. We're going to be shooting at, where's my finger? Those are pork ribs lashed to a cantaloupe. Then we have a pork shoulder steak, and then we have 2 liters of water bottles. And here we go.
You can lash something. I just went through. Went through. And I don't think that one went through.
Okay, so here are the results of the Hornady tap. On the ribs to cantaloupe, we have a nice clean entrance, and it stayed put during the shot. But you can see on the back side what it did to the cantaloupe. Completely destroyed the cantaloupe. Completely obliterated the cantaloupe on the inside. Did not stop in there though. Did go on through the backstop. We think that it was this top hole completely through the cardboard on the backstop. Then we have the pork roast. The pork roast took a good hit. Pretty impressive wound channel there. Split it right in half. Tore it up pretty good. But that hole went up there, and is that second hole completely through the cardboard as well. We did recover from the earthen backstop behind. We did recover a full slug that would have either been the one through the ribs and cantaloupe or the one through the pork roast and landed in the backstop behind. Is only about 2 inches down in the dirt. Mushroomed just like you'd expect to see there. So that's classic jacket of hollow point performance. The water bottles, as through both entrance, exit on that. Hard to tell. I guess that's entrance probably. Second bottle. And then exit, split that open. What's interesting is that we found lying on the table just behind the water jugs, we did find the lead portion of that bullet. Mushroom like you'd expect. The jacket fragmented. There's a piece of the jacket that was also on the table. This was just laying 16 inches or so behind the bottle, maybe not even that, just lying on the table behind the bottle with no full penetration behind the water jugs. There was no penetration to the paper backing behind the water jugs. So we got penetration from the meats, but not from the water.